So the first night of the DNC last night, as we just talked about, Biden spoke around midnight, way past his bedtime. It was an awful, slurring, embarrassing speech. There's no point even talking about the speech anymore, or playing clips or anything like that. Now that everyone admits he has dementia, like, there's no point in discussing it. And that's not to say that the point is irrelevant, however. He is still the president, allegedly. This guy is currently still, and will be for several more months, the president of the United States of America, and he can't speak or walk or think or do anything, but he is the president. And that's a fact that should matter, and yet it apparently doesn't. In fact, we've learned that, I guess, functionally, not having a president is an option. Like, I think a lot of us thought that wasn't really an option. But it is, because that's what we're going with right now. We're just not going to have a president. And, okay, maybe we should make that an official option on the ballot going forward. Maybe every presidential election there should be, like, the Democrat, the Republican, and then there should be a third box. Not for a third party, but for nobody. If you're voting that you just don't want to have a president for the next 4 years, let's have no president at all. Let's just skip the next 4 years. Maybe we might as well put that on the ballot, now that we know that it's an option. So we don't need to bother with the Biden speech. Instead, I want to play this one from a little bit earlier in the night. Here's a union leader delivering one of the most ear-piercing speeches that you'll ever hear. So if you have any pets, especially any dogs in the house, just to not disturb them too much, you probably want to turn the volume down a little bit for this. But here it is. Listen.
President of SEIU, representing 2 million service and care workers. We're all in for Kamala Harris because Kamala Harris has always been all in for us. Vice President Harris joined fast food workers on the picket line, and she walked a day in the shoes of a home care worker. She shares our vision for a modern-day labor movement, a movement that meets the needs of workers in the 21st century, and an economy that is ready for the future. It is going to be together that we write new rules to make it easier for all workers to join a union. And we are going to build a younger, darker, hipper, fresher, sneaker-wearing labor movement.
Yeah, it's, well, you can't deny she has a smooth and pleasant voice. It very much reminds me of the reassuring sounds of, like, 1,000 cats murdering each other. Her voice sounds like an argument between 5 feminists in one voice. But, I'm not gonna, I remember when I went through puberty, so I'm not gonna make fun of her for this. Pretty amazing. Less amazing is the open, overt racism on display, though. There's nothing amazing about that at the DNC, as we've already covered. It's to be expected. She says that they're gonna build a younger, hipper, fresher, darker labor movement. Like, you can't be any less subtle than that. We want to make it darker. And we can only assume that she means darker in terms of skin tones and not darker in terms of being more disturbing, which it will be the latter, inevitably, but that's not what she meant. She meant that they want fewer white people in the labor movement. And this is blatant racism. It's totally despicable. It goes without saying that there would be an outrage explosion to rival the asteroid impact that killed the dinosaurs if a speaker stood on stage at the RNC and said they want to make any institution younger, hipper, fresher, and whiter. If you can imagine someone saying that. So blatant racism, blatant hypocrisy, we know that. But the more critical point is the opportunity that this sort of language presents. Now, we know that Republicans, if you remember, at the RNC brought a union boss up to speak at the convention, which is an unusual thing at a Republican convention. And this was supposed to be a sort of like reaching across the aisles sort of moment. And they were making a play for union votes, which is fine. I mean, if you can get union members to vote for you, then Absolutely. You should get them to vote for you. Everyone's vote, it's you'll take any vote you can get. But rather than simply pandering, why not use this as an opportunity to make an overture to these union members? Like, why, if you're Donald Trump, why not come out and say, hey, if you're in a union and you're white, your own union leaders don't want you in the club. You just heard them say that. They hate you for the color of your skin. Well, come vote for me and I'll fight against this kind of evil anti-white racism. Why not say that? What do you have to lose in saying that explicitly? Which is not the same thing. I mean, coming out and saying, these union leaders are radical leftists. I mean, yeah, they are, but it's not specific enough. I think very specifically saying, hey, she wants to kick white people out. This is like the Great Replacement. We know the Great Replacement, which is happening in the United States generally. It's also happening institutionally at the institutional level. And, it's happening in the unions. So you don't lose anything by just coming out and saying, this is anti-white racism. It's evil. It's a terrible thing. Racism in all of its forms should be condemned. If this is Donald Trump, you're saying, I'm the only candidate who is willing to condemn racism in all of its forms. Has Kamala Harris ever condemned anti-white racism ever in her life? Does she even acknowledge that it exists? That would be a good question to ask her at the debate. I mean, it's not going to be asked by the moderators, of course, but there's a question. Hey, Kamala, does anti-white racism exist? Is that a thing? Do you condemn it?
If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.